We'll leave it to a Republican to expose the Republican lies about the budget. I'm sure the GOP is not happy about this one. My name is Brittany Page, and this is the Page Perspective. Before we get into this, I recently interviewed journalist and author Megan Greenwell, who wrote the incredible new book, Bad Company, Private Equity, and the Death of the American Dream. If you've been hearing about private equity and want to know how it is wreaking havoc on our communities, if you want to be inspired by the people fighting back against the billionaires, then that interview and the book are for you. I will link to it in the description and pinned comment below. Now, as the Republican Party is working to pass their tax and spending bill, we're getting various estimates for what is to come for Americans. And one you've probably heard about is the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office. This is a nonpartisan office that, among other things, runs analyses on costs for proposed legislation. The analyses are impartial, they're objective, and they say nothing about policy recommendations. They do not make policy recommendations. They simply take something like the proposed tax and spending bill from Republicans. They enlist their experts to analyze the fiscal impact, and then they release reports on that impact. Unfortunately for Republicans, these reports have made headlines for how they will harm the poor and working class and benefit the wealthy. That finding, again, from a nonpartisan office, which is not saying, hey, don't follow through with this budget because of the harm. They're only saying, this is the reality of the harm this budget will cause. The latest report from just a couple days ago had such an explosive finding that Republicans are going full attack mode to try to discredit the CBO. And I'm going to play an interview with the CBO director here in a moment, who is, spoiler, a Republican. He talks about his Republican bona fides, but first, you need to know why Republicans are afraid of the latest CBO report. Look at this headline from AP. Quote, GOP tax bill would cost poor Americans $1,600 a year and boost highest earners by $12,000, CBO says. Quote, the Republican tax bill approved by the U.S. House of Representatives would cost the poorest Americans roughly $1,600 a year, while increasing the income of the wealthiest households by an average of $12,000 annually, according to a new analysis released Thursday by the Congressional Budget Office. Middle-income households would see a boost of roughly $500 to $1,000 per year under Republican President Donald Trump's tax bill, the CBO found. So all the benefit goes to the top. And when you hear a cost to the poorest Americans and an increase in the income of the wealthiest Americans, I want to simplify that for you. This is a wealth transfer from the poor to the wealthiest Americans. And I've been talking about this for weeks, for months, that Republicans want to cut essential safety net programs in order to pay for extending tax cuts for the wealthy. And all Republicans have is, the CBO shouldn't be trusted, it's partisan. And if you look at this post from Donald Trump, Republicans will straight up call the CBO, quote unquote, Democrat controlled. The main problem with that is that the CBO director, Phillip Swagel, is a Republican. Let's watch his interview on CNBC on the attacks that he can't be trusted because he's partisan.
Phil, you've been, again, accused of being partisan. You're a Republican.
I am a Republican. You can see over my shoulder that sheet of dollar bills is signed by the Treasury Secretary when I was in the Bush administration, in the Bush Treasury, as in the Bush White House. This is a nonpartisan organization. We work for the entire Congress. We work for both Democrats and Republicans, the House and the Senate. I have 270 colleagues here who are just focused on the job. And of course we get things wrong. We get a lot right, we get some things wrong. We're human. We do our best, and we do it in a nonpartisan, professional way.
She starts the question, you've been accused of being a partisan. You're a Republican. Given that the definition of partisan is a strong supporter of a party, it would seem that he is a partisan. But as an anchor tasked with conducting an interview that informs the public, And that might be a generous take for CNBC, but let's say that's the goal, to inform the public. This question doesn't do that. The better way to set up the question is, Republicans are accusing you of being partisan, as in a Democrat. And your Democrat beliefs, they claim, are informing the analysis of the budget. But you're not a Democrat, are you? And as we saw there, he's not. He has his little plaque of signed dollar bills, signed by Henry Paulson, the Secretary of Treasury in the Bush administration. Paulson was appointed by Bush in 2006. Paulson then selected Swagel for Assistant Secretary of the Treasury, where he was confirmed by the Senate and served as the chief economist in the Treasury in the Bush administration. When Republican Phillip Swagel was appointed to the CBO director in 2019, I wonder who was president in 2019. Oh, that's right. It was Donald Trump. When Swagel was appointed in 2019, the Republican chairman of the Senate Budget Committee said this about Swagel, quote, "Dr. Swagel's strong academic and government experience, as well as his knowledge and expertise in economic forecasting, will serve him well as he leads CBO," said Republican Chairman Enzi. "I am confident he will lead the agency with integrity and maintain the office's reputation for nonpartisan analysis. I would also like to thank Dr. Hall for his years of dedicated service to Congress and wish him well," the person that Swagel was replacing. So when that CNBC anchor began her question saying, "You've been called a partisan, you're a Republican," all of this could have been useful context. Also, an explicit reminder that Republicans are saying the analyses published by the CBO are partisan and that they are published by Democrats who want to make the budget proposal look bad, when in reality, the CBO director is a Republican with deep Republican Party ties. If anyone is going to be in the tank for the Republican budget, you'd expect it to be this guy. But no, the CBO is saying directly, stealing $1,600 from the poorest Americans to give $12,000 to the wealthiest Americans, a direct wealth transfer from the poor to the rich, a fact. The damage this bill will cause will be so profound. In fact, before we go here, I want to cover the estimated loss of healthcare coverage for Americans as reported from the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, citing a CBO report. Quote, "Roughly 16 million people by 2034 will lose health coverage and become uninsured because of the Medicaid cuts, the bill's failure to extend enhanced premium tax cuts for ACA marketplace coverage, and other harmful ACA marketplace changes, according to estimates from the Congressional Budget Office." CBO estimates project that 7.8 million people would become uninsured due to Medicaid cuts, 4 million people would become uninsured due to marketplace cuts, an additional 4.2 million people would lose marketplace coverage because the legislation fails to extend the premium tax credit enhancements. People will die without access to healthcare coverage, without the ability to pay for their medications. Just look at this from February. A young man died after the cost of his inhaler skyrocketed and he couldn't afford it. This is quite literally life and death. It's why we say budgets are moral documents. They lay out our moral priorities. Republicans' moral priorities? Stealing from the poor to give to the rich, or taking food from children, as you can see in this graph from the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. The bill, quote, "cuts SNAP by about 30% through 2034. Millions of people, including more than 2 million children, would lose some or all of the food assistance they need to afford groceries." Literally taking food from children. Moral priorities. So next time you hear Donald Trump, Mike Johnson, Scott Bessent, insert other villain here, talking about the CBO being Democrat controlled, remember what you've heard here. Send this video to someone who is unaware. And don't forget to call your senators and tell them No cuts to Medicaid, no cuts to SNAP, no wealth transfer from the poor to the wealthy. 202-224-3121. Put it in your phone. Call every day when you have your morning coffee. Even if your senator is one of the worst, it matters that you make the call. Comment below and tell me when you do and how it goes. Share in the community of listeners and viewers below. Give advice, commiserate. We're in this together. What do you think? Call and leave me a fewer than 3-minute voicemail at 202-656-1509 or send an email to idoubtit@dollemore.com. You can support my work by becoming a channel member for as little as $1.99 a month or by going to patreon.com/idoubtitpodcast. I appreciate you being here. Every view, every like, every comment, it all goes to feed the algorithm to help boost this video so other people can see it. If you learned something valuable here, I'd ask that you share this video with a friend. I appreciate you. Take care, and I'll see you next time.